Are you coming to the tree where they strung up a man? They say murder three. Strange things that happen here. How stranger would it be if we met at midnight in the hanging tree?
And welcome to the show. I'm your host, Chris James. With me tonight is Anthony Acosta from McAllen, Texas. He's an award winning marketing campaign creator, director, engineer, author, photographer, developer, expert in graphic design. Anthony works behind the scenes to create winning strategies for businesses across the country. He has 25 years as a computer professional, including 7 years as an IT professional. His first book, Sicarionauts, is well worth reading. The Sicarios, the most unlikely heroes. This gripping adventure will take you on the most unforgettable journey through the secret spaceports in India to experimental rocket facilities in South Texas and the International Space Station. Now follow the exciting misadventures of the worst sicarios ever, according to one observer, as every decision they make takes them on a collision course with destiny. Watch as they inadvertently become the Earth's last line of defense as they face the world's most treacherous terrorists. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
You bet. We met in McAllen, in Edinburgh at the UFO conference, and you were in the process of taking your book to one of the other speakers.
I was in, I wanted to meet all of you guys
Okay.
at the conference, and I always carry postcards and flyers for the book, and so I wanted to make sure I got it in your hands. And I think I personally feel I like the story, and I wanted to share it with as many people as I can, and you guys are exactly the kind of audience that would be receptive to me.
Are you still in contact with Mrs. White, your 10th grade teacher?
I'm sorry.
Mrs. White, you mentioned her in the beginning of the book. Your 10th grade school teacher who didn't like the way you wrote.
Yeah, I hate to do this, but I can't. I can't hear what. I can't hear what you're saying. I think you're too far from the microphone.
Sorry about that. Well, how about this? Do you keep in contact with a Mrs. White, the 10th grade school teacher you referenced in the beginning of the book?
Do I keep in contact with the people that I mentioned in the beginning?
No, Mrs. White.
With my wife?
Mrs. White. Oh, we must have a really bad connection here. It's not important. You'd mentioned how your 10th grade school teacher didn't like the way you wrote.
Oh, Mrs. White.
Yes.
Yes, I do not keep in contact with her. I tried contacting her, but yeah, no, she was one of those teachers that I mean, she just forced you to level up. You thought you handed in, wonderful piece of Shakespeare, and she would tell you that no, this is terrible.
Ooh, one of those.
It's worse than a restaurant menu,
Were you able to make it to the open mic or to the festival? At Edinburgh.
In Edinburgh?
Yeah, the open mic night and the festival.
Open mic. I did not make it to the open mic night. I regret not making it to the open mic night. I enjoyed listening to your presentation and to the others on Saturday. But was there some good stories?
Yeah, it was a good time. Just it was kind of hot. It was 100 degrees, and we didn't have any shade hardly.
That's every day in the valley.
True. Well, that's Laredo too. Did you get to speak to all of the speakers that you wanted to talk with?
I did not get to meet everybody. But I met so many nice people there. I gotta say, the the conference itself was the people that attended were so friendly and
Mm-hmm.
open-minded, and I really had a fantastic time. I look forward to the next one.
Oh yes.
Um,
Next time, hopefully, we'll be inside where it's cool. When did you discover UFOs were something worth looking into?
um, UFOs?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I had an experience where back in, I want to say 1992,
Mm-hmm.
my friends and I were partying in San Antonio, and we're coming back home to come back to school, and we left San Antonio at about 11 o'clock at night on a Sunday night, and we took the wrong highway. Instead of taking Highway 37 or 35, instead we took the one that doesn't take you to the Rio Grande Valley, the one that takes you to Laredo.
Mm-hmm. 35.
And 35.
Mm-hmm.
So we took 35 instead of 37, and we ended up on the wrong part of Texas. So around midnight, around 12:30, we stopped outside of Catula at a gas station, and decided to take one of these farm roads across to get to the other highway, to 30,
Mm-hmm.
35, 37. And it's about 60-mile stretch, and we left around 12:15, 12:30, and it was a dark night, no stars, no moon, foggy, and this farm road had no lights on it, so it's already very creepy, and the fog got very thick, and we crossed it, and it was supposed to take it was 60 miles, so it should have taken us about an hour and a half to cross it. And while we were in it, you could feel the silence and everything, and there was no radio stations, nothing, no broadcasting. And we came across this town, looked like a ghost town. There was no cars; it was just old buildings. Very, very creepy, to be honest. And we were a little freaked out by it, so we were like, stepping on it, and let's get through this and finish up and go. And once we reached the other side was Three Rivers, and we stopped at the gas station there at Three Rivers, and perfectly safe, fine, finally found civilization. We're in a familiar spot, and as we're getting out of the car to go to the bathroom and take a break at the gas station, the sun starts rising, and so we're seeing sunrise, and it turns out it's something like 6:30 in the morning, 6:45 in the morning, that we're seeing the sun come up. And we're like, whoa, wait a minute. According to my watch, and according to the car's watch, and according to all of our timepieces, it was barely, like, I don't know, 2:30 in the morning, between 2 o'clock and 2:30,
Mm-hmm.
and everything else said it was 7 a.m. So I have about 4 or 5 missing hours of time from that. Now, we didn't see any UFOs. We didn't feel anything. All we know is that a 1-hour drive took us 6 hours, and so it was very odd.
You know about
And
Betty and Barney, I take it. The hills.
so that's my experience with UFOs, even though there wasn't necessarily a UFO involved.
Have you ever been hypnotized?
Have I
Hypnotized?
ever what?
Have you ever been hypnotized?
Victimized?
Hypnotized to see if you could bring back the
Oh,
memories.
hypnotized.
Yes.
No. I have met with I've met with a famous hypnotist, John Milton.
Mm-hmm.
He's very famous for he has a saying. He says "duérmase,"
Mm-hmm.
and I met with him, and he started to put me under, but we were interrupted, and we didn't pursue it. But I am curious, part of me. Another part of me wonders, should I really stir the hornet's nest? Do I want to, know those things? Are they gonna help me, or are they gonna just confuse me?
Were you a sci-fi fan when you were growing up? Science fiction movies and TV?
Was I a what?
Sci-fi fan growing up?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Star Trek or Star Wars?
Star Wars, but I grew up with Star Trek.
Well, I always like to point out to people in Star Trek they always hit what they aimed at. In
Well,
Star
there
Wars, that
was
was
issues with.
missed.
Well, the issues I have issues with Star Trek. The not the episodes. I think they're great. The wonderful mental exercises. I have issues with their societal infrastructure. I
Mm.
don't necessarily understand where a lot of that stuff, how we would get there.
Ray
You know,
Bradbury wanted a utopian planet, and that's what he was aiming for. He was
uh,
he was just that kind of guy.
I'm sorry. I didn't understand the
Oh
question.
no, I was just saying that Ray Bradbury was that kind of guy that he was trying to fix the world.
Mm.
Well, do you attend any other UFO themed events? Have you
uh,
attended?
have
Have you
I seen a
attended any
UFO?
other UFO events?
Um, I've seen things that I can't explain.
Hmm. Well,
Uh,
was Edinburgh your first UFO event?
Oh, the Edinburgh UFO event. I've been to all of them.
Okay.
Yes. Oh, yes.
We.
Well, I went to the one on. They canceled last year's,
Hmm.
or at least I didn't hear it. I went to it with Childress that they held at the DHR Event Center.
That would have been like
Uh,
6 years ago, I think.
that was 2019.
With Childress?
Uh, yeah, I have pictures with them.
Oh, because 2 years ago we had Colonel Holt from Rendlesham.
Which one?
Colonel Holt from Rendlesham was 2 years ago.
Uh, oh, maybe. Well, it's one of the guys from Ancient Aliens.
Hmm.
Maybe I
Well,
got. Maybe I called him Childress, and I meant to say another name.
yeah.
Ugh.
Anyway,
I hope he
but
doesn't hear this.
you've been to several. Uh, how about other kinds of paranormal gatherings? Have you looked into Bigfoot or ghosts or anything like that?
I've never really researched Bigfoot.
Hmm.
Don't know much about that. Um,
Ghosts?
well, I mean, it's there's a couple of prevailing theories. You know, an undiscovered cryptid sounds really strange,
Hmm.
unless we're missing out on a huge underground world that doesn't exist, or they are transdimensional and are jumping in and out of their dimension to ours. But those things seem really, really far-fetched for me. So I tend to not dive any deeper into the
Hmm.
into the phenomenon.
With all the work you were doing, what caused you to finally sit down and start writing a book?
Um, well, to be honest, I have isolated myself during the times that I decide to write,
Hmm.
and it's very easy as a writer to procrastinate.
Yes.
And you know you've got this giant project and you put it off.
Hmm.
But I found that if you sit down and with the purpose of just doing a chapter, you know, and then you can push it out. And once one chapter goes, then the next one, and the next one, it's a cascading effect. However, you need to limit your interruptions. You need to limit distractions. You need to get rid of all of that. And so I have isolated myself and removed myself from everything when I write these stories to make sure I get them out right. And I don't know if it's noticeable in the writing, but I scrutinize almost every word that's in there.
Hmm.
And I think it over and down to every sentence and how it's phrased and could I use better words and I really am overly critical. And I understand that this is my first book,
Hmm.
but I tried to put out the best product that I could in telling this story.
How did you choose the subject?
I'm sorry, how do I what?
How did you choose the subject of the book?
How did I come up with the idea
Yes.
for the book?
Yes.
Oh, well, I was, you know, as at work, I was working on Photoshop on a marketing image, which featured an astronaut. And as I was staring at the image, this flash of light just kind of hits me, and the entire epic story, the tale, much larger than just the first book,
Hmm.
hit me all at once. So I can't, even though I wrote or I am writing these stories or this story, I don't know if it's mine per se, because something in the universe hit me with the whole story.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not something that I invented. It's something that the story just hit me, and I'm just the teller of this tale. Um, and so that's kind of how it came to be. I wrote it down. It took 6 pages.
Mm-hmm.
Then I decided, you know what, this would make a nice screenplay. So I started writing it out as a screenplay. And then I realized that it was too big of a story to tell. So I had to split it into 3 parts. And then I focused on the first part and realized that a screenplay wasn't going to work. And so that's when I decided to actually sit down and write the book. So it was kind of a long way to get there.
Yikes.
To get to the book, but it was something that I couldn't rest until I had it out. It needed to get out of my head and onto some kind of medium.
When you were writing, did you ever run into a moment when you said, I don't like this, and you had to go back and redo part of the story, or did you just let it flow?
Oh, I can tell you that the original story to what it is to the refined thing. I've written chapters and chapters and then scrapped them because I was like, no, this is the wrong direction. I can't use it, and so a week's worth of work will go away. It hurts.
Mm-hmm. The technology. Did you have to research that a lot, or was that something you were already familiar with?
The technology that I described in the book?
Yes.
I had to do a lot of research into dark matter, which we touch upon in the book, and and what the latest stuff is on that. I'm not extremely knowledgeable on that side of physics,
Mm-hmm.
and the latest discoveries at CERN and things like that. And I did have to do a lot of research on space agencies. Now, when I originally wrote the book, I used the names of real companies and real characters, real names. And then I, for obvious copyright reasons and whatnot, I had to go back and change all the names to everything.
Yes.
However, if you're familiar with anything going on today in space, you'll recognize who I'm talking about in a lot of these, in the story, with a lot of the characters.
You did the cover work yourself, the cover art?
I'm sorry, what?
You did the cover art yourself? The
I
art.
did not use myself.
No, the artwork. You did the artwork on the cover.
Oh, the artwork. Yes,
Yes.
I did the art. I did the artwork on the cover. When we finished with the project that featured the astronaut, because I couldn't let the story go, I kept. We ended up not using that astronaut image in the campaign that we were working on. So I kept it and I refined it and I used it. And as a matter of fact, I took pictures of myself with the flag draped, and that is actually what I used to. I photoshopped myself out of it and put the flag in, and so everything you see there, I photographed. I have the helmets here,
Mm-hmm.
and I have a collection of space stuff. I had to do a lot of research on the ISS, and so I ended up getting a model of it. And same thing with a lot of I don't have it at the moment, but I 3D printed a lot of the SpaceX rockets and a lot of things like that, so I could get a lot of these descriptions correct.
Wow.
And it was just for the sake of making it as close to accurate as possible.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, now that I've seen the new SpaceX passenger thing, I was way off on mine. The layout for the actual one is a little different from what I described in the book.
Did you ever find yourself focusing on the book when you were supposed to be doing other things?
If I were to what?
If you were supposed to be at work and you found yourself drifting off thinking about the book instead?
I'm sorry, I did not understand.
We're just not having a good connection here for whatever reason. How often did you find yourself thinking about the book when you're supposed to be doing other things?
Oh, I'm going to say I was obsessed with the book,
Mm-hmm.
or I've been obsessed with it. I was able to relax when I got the first one done,
Mm.
and I stopped. I'll be honest. I spent maybe 2 weeks, 3 weeks after I finished it, not thinking about it.
Mm.
And I was just like, no, no, get it out of my head. I need to rest. And then once we started, yeah, putting it, it went out onto the libraries, and it went out to, the copyright
Mm-hmm.
office, and it got put on all the online stores. I started getting reviews and feedback, and so I got back into the story,
Hmm.
and that's when I started writing again, the second part, and taking into account. I got a lot of criticisms. You know, online reviews can be kind and
Mm.
cruel.
Oh yeah.
However, I took them as constructive, and I've taken the lessons that I believe they have some merit in their criticisms, and so I intend to fix a lot of that in the subsequent books.
Hmm.
Um, Luckily for me, the criticisms weren't about the story;
Mm-hmm.
it was about technical issues, pacing of the story, my choice of language. Um, there's a lot of adult language in there that I didn't want to censor.
Mm-hmm.
And what it is that I did not want my I, the characters. It's how we would. Excuse me. Hold on. My
That's your
dog.
dog. No,
One
that's
second.
okay. I've got 2 dogs myself. Okay, while he's gone, he's back. That was quick. I
Yeah.
have a dog that
Uh,
does that all the time.
oh no! The other day, the dog jumped on my lap, and when I threw him out, I'm tethered to this computer with
Mm-hmm.
this microphone, and I threw him out of the door, and when I did that, it pulled the microphone out of the computer, but pulled the whole computer off the desk. It
Ouch.
was terrible.
It survived, I take it.
Yeah, it survived.
Hmm. You did your own editing. Was that a horrible task? I find reading my own work, I'll miss the mistakes that I made simply because I know what I wanted to say and not necessarily what I'm reading.
Hmm. Um, how I got around that?
Well, you edited it yourself. Was that a huge problem or was that worse than writing the book?
Oh, well, I had a couple of friends read each chapter as I finished it,
Hmm.
and they get feedback, and based on their feedback, they'd tell me what they didn't understand, and they'd tell me what they did get, and so I was able to kind of interpret uh, how they interpreted the book,
Hmm.
and so I could do my rewrites to make sure that it was more understandable,
Hmm.
um, and I believe. I, I tried to go with a where each chapter builds on the next or in the previous chapter,
Mm-hmm.
and so the entire story moves smoothly between all the chapters, and creates a kind of a ladder that leads to a crescendo,
Mm-hmm.
which is of course the climax of the tale, and I really worked hard, and I think we successfully accomplished that, and I'm just thankful for everybody that helped me edit this and helped me trying and get it out. Yes, I'm the one that actually wrote it, but it wasn't by myself. I had a lot of, and I mentioned them in the credits
Mm-hmm.
in the beginning. These people were so invaluable. I would not have been able to do this without them. Um, and I think it's really good. However, I will say this: my wife is upset because I did not include too many female characters. There are some female characters, but I didn't include many. And so her and her girlfriends have insisted, they put their foots down, that on the subsequent books I include them. Uh,
I,
I modeled many of these characters after my actual friends, but I have I guess not that many female friends. Uh, so uh, yeah,
hmm.
you will be seeing more female characters in part two.
I think there's only one in the first book. That was the astronaut, the scientist, the one in charge of the snow cone.
um, uh,
How's the next book? It's almost edited. It's almost done. Your next book.
I'm sorry.
Your next book. It's almost ready to print.
Yes. Well, almost ready. I don't know. As with many of these things, I have the book. I have the chapters.
Mm-hmm.
I have I haven't run it through my process to refine it and to make sure the storyline is correct and all the plot lines have tied up correctly. There's major plot lines and there's minor plot lines, and then there's running. I call them gags, but they're running gags
Mm-hmm.
that run through, and I try to put a lot of humor into this, so I need to
Mm-hmm.
make sure. And humor is a delicate thing. Sometimes it works, and sometimes it doesn't.
Yes.
Uh, and so where we're at on that is as we're refining it, we're making sure that all of these elements work.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's where the stage that I'm at. Last time it took me about 6 months, so that's why I'm expecting this to be ready maybe by fall, which is cutting it short. But I'm dedicating extra time to do it because I need to get the whole story out.
Mm-hmm.
But it's got some clever twists, and I really hope everyone's going to enjoy it. I'm really excited about it. I think it's going to be a great story.
Where can folks find your first book at this time? The first book.
Um,
Where can people find your first book?
yes. Well, we have a dedicated website for it. It's Sicarionauts.com, and it's also available on Amazon, on Barnes and Noble, on your favorite book retailer online. They have ebooks. They have hard copies, and you can actually order it directly from me on the website, and I will autograph the ones that are sold on the website directly on the website. I also have a audiobook coming out soon, which is an audiobook version of this. I had because this is based in South Texas. I have a friend who is a local comedian. Many people have heard of him. His name is Raymond Horta, and he was featured on the Comedy Channel a few times, and he's a very good joker, and he makes these incredible voices. He's got a really good talent for that. And so I got him specifically because he speaks the Valley dialect,
Mm-hmm.
and there's I have a lot of Tex-Mex in the some of the dialogue, and so you need a special person to be able to say that. I can't get Morgan Freeman to say something in Tex-Mex and make it sound authentic. So as soon as he's got it ready, we'll be putting it out as well.
If somebody wanted to use your computer skills, how would they go about getting a hold of you for that?
My consulting company is called Kennedy Media Group,
Mm-hmm.
and the website is kennedymedia.com, and the contact information is on there. And although I've got a fairly large catalog of clients at the moment, I'm always looking for new opportunities, and any opportunity to grow. If somebody has an idea that they want to develop, I'm love to discuss that and help them develop it further. That's one of my passions, is to help people, with whatever their dreams are and what they want to achieve, and I show them a possible roadmap to get there, and we'll get there. And we've done this successfully over the years. And it's been fantastic. One of my, just as an example, we built a marketing campaign for the X-Files when they did the new season for the revival, and it was a local marketing campaign. However, whenever you're gonna within the network, within Fox, if you're going to market something, you have to get approval by Fox network corporate. And so we sent them the package and everything that we had built in order to promote the X-Files. And they loved it so much that they sent me this giant gift box full of X-Files merchandise. And then they asked permission to send it to all the other markets so that everybody else can replicate that marketing campaign.
Hmm.
And so they used it nationally.
Wow.
So that's the level of work that we like to do. And so that's what you get with Kennedy Media.
Wow. Is there anything you'd like to tell someone who wants to write a book but they just can't seem to get started?
Um, the I don't know exactly what advice I could give since people are different, but honestly, the bottom line for me was you get everything out. If you have the story in your head, start by writing one sentence. Start by writing the whole story in one or two sentences, and then expand on that. And then you take that and you build it into a full page, and don't try to uh, write an epic novel. Don't try to write 7 books of Harry Potter, in one sitting. Just try and you got to take it down to the piecemeal. And what will happen is your creativity, your creative side will take over, and you're not going to want to stop. And you're going to keep writing, and before you know it, it's done. And you will wonder how in the world you started. What is that famous saying? A journey of 1,000 miles begins with the first step,
Mm-hmm.
or something like that.
Yeah, that's
um, so if you've got the story, just take the first step, write down the first sentence, and get started with that. Even if you end up not using that first sentence in the book, during rewrites, you will be updating it and changing it and evolving it, and pretty soon you'll end up with a polished story.
fantastic. How about other lines, other stories? Do you have something besides the Sicarionauts in the future?
In the works?
Well,
Uh,
someday.
uh, well, I have I at the moment I'm working on just those three. I do have another, but it's a different format. I'm working. It's a YouTube short videos
Mm-hmm.
um, format that I'm working on for some other. It's along the same subject as UFOs and aliens and close encounters, and it's not a talk show. It's actual recreated shorts telling some of those tales that I'm working with a couple of people that but I can't. I'm not at liberty
Yeah.
to mention. And there's a couple of those things that we're working on, but that's more on the video production side of it.
Mm-hmm.
We do a lot of filming. I have a lot of video equipment and lighting and whatnot, and that goes back to the television days. And so we're not necessarily trying to be a studio, but we're doing studio stuff.
Mm.
And eventually, I hope to be able to turn these into that as well.
Mm-hmm. Well, it sounds like you've got a full plate.
Thanks.
Any last words you'd like to put out before I let you go?
If you guys, if you like, action adventure, and with mixed in with some humor that's relatable to people here in the valley or normal people, this book is exactly for you. It's a fun science fiction adventure, and I'm hoping that you'll enjoy it and love it and want more. And I'm forever thankful for everybody that has read it so far.
Fantastic. This was Anthony Acosta from McAllen, Texas, talking about his book, The Sicarionauts. Don't go away. We'll be right back after these important commercial messages. Did you stay up all night watching horror movies and now you think your house might be haunted? Contact the Laredo Paranormal Research Society and have them come by and check out your house. Maybe you accidentally invited a ghost or a spirit, or maybe it's just the plumbing. You can contact the Laredo Paranormal Research Society at laredoparanormal@hotmail.com. I had no idea what I was missing until I had my eyes checked at the Optica del Norte 107 Calle del Norte. Now I can see all kinds of things I'd been missing my entire life. You should get your eyes checked too. Coffee. Without it, we would never have had the Industrial Revolution. We'd all be still living in Europe in mud huts. Here in Laredo, we have the Organic Man Coffee Trike. 4501 McPherson, the best coffee on the planet. If you can't get to Laredo, you can order from the Organic Man Coffee Trike.shop. Isn't it about time you did something for your skin besides mistreat it? Contact Lourdes James at 956-723-3019 and take care of your skin with a free skincare class. This is Arkanasa Radio you've been listening to. And welcome back to the show. I was trying to figure out what was wrong between my computer and Anthony's. I could hear him just fine, but he was having difficulty hearing some of my questions. I tested my equipment and I couldn't find any problems. I think maybe it has to do with Anthony having some of the latest equipment out there, and most of mine is cobbled together from old parts. We both had dog problems, but that wasn't too bad. His dog started barking, and he had to get it out of the room, and then my dog started barking, and she wound up sitting in my lap. It was quite a conversation. I wished I could have had more with Anthony, but unfortunately, due to those technical problems, we didn't make it an entire hour show. Whenever I do an interview like this, I always like to have 3 or 4 pages of questions before I get started. That way, even though my mind does wander, I can look down at my notes and say, oh yes, I wanted to ask the interviewee a particular question or two. Otherwise, we wind up talking about all kinds of things that have absolutely nothing to do with what I'm supposed to be talking about. Seeing as we did meet in Edinburgh UFO conference, I thought I would wind out the show by talking about one of my favorite sightings. At around 10:30 p.m., while panning the night sky with his third-generation night vision scope, Ishmael was just looking at the stars when he saw a 3-sided flying craft passing over northeast Laredo. The craft was totally shrouded in infrared light, which is invisible to the naked eye. Resembling a triangle with spheres at each of its points, this UFO had no sound of any propulsion and silently cruised at approximately 1,000 feet. After catching what would amount to one of the best images of an unknown craft, Ishmael thought it may have been a secret military aircraft or maybe even a drone. Standing there all alone in the dark, he recorded a mystery that was well worth pursuing. After showing the video to the other LPRS members, they had the images analyzed using color spectrums and temperature filters. The video specialist, who also image controlled, as he tried to dissect the information held in the camera. The specialist noted a light that cloaked the aircraft, or the triangular UFO, with infrared light that could not be seen with the human eye, only through night vision cameras. The video has provided other professional videographers and experts in ufology an amazing amount of evidence of an unknown craft, either from out of this world or something maybe controlled by the military. We may never know the truth about this mysterious craft that flies with no combustion, no engine sounds, and not seen with the naked eye, only sophisticated night vision cameras. We don't know if this is extraterrestrial, natural phenomenon, or some secret from the military. For now, we call this paranormal and unexplained. After viewing the strange craft, Ishmael was unable to sleep until 7 in the morning. This was one of those experiences that makes life well worth living. Noe Torres invited the LPRS to attend the Roswell UFO Festival. Noe Torres is an author, publisher, a UFO investigator, member of MUFON, and a lecturer from Edinburgh, Texas. He has penned many books on the subject of UFOs, such as The Ultimate Guide to the Roswell Crash, Aliens in the Forest, The Real Cowboys and Aliens, The Coyami Incident, Mexico's Roswell, The Other Roswell, and Fallen Angel, the story of the Laredo Incident, as well as several other books. His books can be purchased from roswellbooks.com or amazon.com. Mr. Torres was presenting at Roswell and thought the LPRS would be a great addition to the lineup. So, Ishmael, Gabriela, Joe, and Claudia Alvarez, their son Pablo, Rick Rodriguez, and a few others packed their bags and headed to the home of one of the biggest UFO stories on the face of the earth. Once they were in Roswell, Ishmael told Gabby that Stanton Friedman is at the museum. She said, "Who's that?" Once Ishmael got his jaw up off the sidewalk, he told her that they needed to go talk to him, and he wanted to show Stanton Friedman the video of the triangle. They walked over to the museum to talk to the godfather of ufology. He walked up to the man in question and he said, "Mr. Friedman, my name is Ishmael Quayer. I'm a UFO investigator from Laredo, Texas, and I want to show you a flying triangle I caught on video." Well, Mr. Friedman probably hears this sort of thing 100 times a day. He looked at his watch, knowing he had an appointment in a few minutes, and he said, "I have 10 minutes until my presentation." Well, Ishmael was all in a panic because he hadn't brought his computer with him. He wanted to make an appointment to show Mr. Stanton Friedman the video, but he didn't know he was going to do it right then. So he turned and ran out the door of the museum and down the block to his truck. Once he got there, he grabbed his laptop computer, turned around, and ran back to the museum. He was gasping for breath. The sweat was running in his eyes, and he made it back just with 2 minutes to spare. As the computers would, it took too darn long to open. Then, there it was, the Laredo Triangle. And Mr. Friedman watched the video, and then he said, "Can you rewind it?" He then called his wife and his son to come over and look at the video as well. After viewing the video, Mr. Friedman said, "Would you wait right here? I'll be back as soon as I finish my presentation." When he returned, Ishmael showed him the video once more. He watched the video with interest. He said it's kind of bad quality. You need something to give it perspective. Next time, try getting a street light or something like that in the shot. Put yourself in it as well. He asked if it was silent, to which Ishmael said yes, there wasn't a sound to be heard. Mr. Friedman was very interested in this triangle's video. Ishmael showed Mr. Friedman some of the other paranormal evidence that the group had caught over the years. There were some bizarre lights seen out at the end of San Ignacio Road, as well as some other mysterious lights crossing over the sky at night. Ishmael asked what Mr. Friedman thought it might be. Stanton Friedman, always the scientist, said, "This could be some kind of a ball of energy. Perhaps there's a reasonable explanation that nobody has looked into yet." After their meeting in Roswell, they have attended several UFO conferences together. Jaime Maussan and Stanton Friedman both said the LPRS was the only group to use a projector hooked to a night vision camera to scan the skies for UFOs. This camera was equipped with a 300 power zoom lens, giving a clear image instead of a pixelated blur found in most cameras. What a lot of people do during a UFO hunt is everybody will have a set of night vision goggles, and they'll be scanning the sky in every direction. Somebody will say, oh, look, there's a UFO. Well, it's pitch black out. Nobody can see which direction they're pointing, and nobody else can see the object that this person is looking at unless they manage to get lucky and turn in the same direction in the pitch dark and somehow manage to catch the same object. Usually by that time, whatever this flying craft is has disappeared. The LPRS hook up this night vision camera to a big screen TV, which is well away from the camera so that you don't get any light bleed over. Then you can have 10 or 15 people all sitting there watching the TV while one investigator scans the sky with the camera. This puts a lot of eyes on the same spot as opposed to just one or two people seeing an item. The U.S. Department of Defense has confirmed that leaked photos and videos of unidentified aerial phenomenon captured in 2019 is indeed legitimate sightings. A Pentagon spokeswoman, Sue Go, stated that pictures of triangle, sphere, acorn, and metallic blimp-shaped objects moving through the clouds were clicked by Navy personnel. Several pictures of the enigmatic sightings were published last week by Mystery Wire and Extraordinary Beliefs, but had been circulating on the internet since last year. The spokeswoman clarified that to maintain operation security and to avoid disclosing information that may be useful to potential adversaries, the Department of Defense does not publicly discuss the details of the observations of examination reports of the incursions in American airspace or training grounds. Yes, they like to use a lot of words when they speak. She added that the incursions also include those which are initially designated as UAPs. Go further said that the Unidentified Aerial Phenomenon Task Force, I didn't know there was such a thing, created in August to investigate UFO sightings observed by the military, has included these incidents in their ongoing examinations. Last April, the Pentagon released 3 videos of UAPs taken in 2004 and 2015 that included audio of pilots amazed at the speed of the objects they were seeing. A full report into the sightings are to be submitted to the Department of Defense to Congress in June. I'm wondering if they're actually going to release anything, and if they do release anything, are we ever going to see it, or is it just going to be shown to select members of Congress? Sightings of unidentified flying objects registered have increased a lot more during the Black Plague of 2020 compared to 2019, with 480 new reports submitted just last month, according to the National UFO Reporting Center, or NUFORC. These unconfirmed sightings have jumped by 1,000 compared to last year, when the center dedicated to the collection of and dissemination of objective UFO data registered over 7,200 incidences of possible UFOs in the skies. They said in 2020 the instances of UFO sightings registered with the agency spiked 31%. In December last year, NUFORC reported at least 2 sightings of probably authentic UFOs by airline crew members. At one time, airline members absolutely would not talk about such things because they knew if they mentioned having seen a UFO, that was pretty much the end of their career. So it looks as if the bizarre flying triangle Ishmael caught with his night vision camera has been confirmed by the Department of Defense as being a genuine UFO. Now, this doesn't answer any of the questions as to where it came from or who is flying it, but at least now we know it's not our military and it's not just a hallucination. If you'd like to get a copy of Anthony Acosta's book, go to Sicarionauts.com and you can order one there. It's also available at Amazon.com, Barnes & Noble, and a bunch of other places. Just type in Sicarionauts and it will pop up. Look for the astronaut in the spacesuit. Correction, let me try that again. Look for the skeleton in a spacesuit. If you're a new writer and you have a book that sounds like what we talk about on the show, send me an email telling me about your work, and if it's strange enough, I'll get you on the show to talk about it. Hopefully, we won't have any communications problems. Also, if you've had a ghost sighting, or maybe your grandfather or grandmother or just somebody you met in the grocery store told you a good ghost story, something you haven't seen on TV or read in a book yet, send me the story. I'll put it into my next book, and I'll give you full credit for anything you tell me. I'll even use your name if you want. Or if you don't want your name mentioned in the book, just tell me and nobody will know where the story came from except you and me. If you'd like to be in my next book, you can contact me at strangethings@arcanasa.com. Until next Saturday, this is Chris James for Strange Things.
Are you coming to the tree where they strung up a man? They say murder 3. Strange things that happen here. How stranger would it be if we met at midnight in the hanging tree?